Press your thumb into the plastic. Feel the resistance building until pop. It is among the most universally satisfying sensory experiences on Earth. We know this material as the ultimate guardian of our fragile goods, a staple of global shipping, and a cheap form of stress relief. Yet this ubiquitous invention began its life as arguably one of the worst interior design concepts in history. Today, we unwrap the strange story of how a failed attempt at groovy 1950s textured wallpaper became the accidental packaging icon we simply cannot resist popping. Welcome to Strange Object History, where we investigate the strange and sometimes terrifying origins of everyday objects. Subscribe and click the bell so you never miss a discovery. The year is 1957. In a small, cluttered garage in Hawthorne, New Jersey, two engineers named Alfred Fielding and Mark Chavannes are hunting for the next great invention. America is in the midst of a post-war consumer boom, absolutely obsessed with new synthetic materials. Plastics are the future, and textured walls are the height of modern fashion. Fielding and Chavannes decide they will not merely follow this trend, they intend to revolutionize it by inventing a completely new type of wall covering that is three-dimensional and tactile. Their grand concept was decidedly low-tech. They took two plastic shower curtains and fed them through a heat sealing machine. The goal was to laminate the sheets tightly together onto a paper backing to create an embossed wallpaper. However, their machine proved faulty. Instead of a smooth seal, it trapped tiny, uniform pockets of air between the plastic layers. They stared at the resulting material, a bumpy, bubbly plastic sheet. It made for truly hideous wallpaper, yet they had accidentally pioneered a brand new manufacturing process. Undeterred by the poor aesthetics, they dubbed their creation AirCap and attempted to market it as avant-garde 3D wallpaper. Imagine walking into a sophisticated 1950s parlor where every wall is sheathed in plastic bubbles. It would be a nightmare to clean and an irresistible temptation for guests to push on the walls. The market reaction was swift and brutal. Absolutely nobody desired a home resembling a package of blistered plastic. The wallpaper idea was a spectacular, unsellable failure. Fielding and Chavannes were now stuck with a machine churning out endless sheets of useless bubbles. They desperately needed a pivot. Recognizing that trapped air possesses excellent thermal insulating properties, they rebranded AirCap as greenhouse insulation. They hoped farmers would use it to keep plants warm during winter. This idea also flopped. It was too expensive compared to existing methods and failed to withstand the elements. They were now 2 for 2 on failed business models for their accidental invention. Despite having no viable commercial product, the duo remained convinced their manufacturing process held value. In 1960, they founded the Sealed Air Corporation. They spent years refining the technology because the early versions had a critical flaw: the bubbles leaked. The plastic was porous enough that the air simply seeped out over time, leaving the sheets flat. They had to develop a special barrier coating to keep the air trapped inside, ensuring the bubbles remained plump and durable for the long haul. The breakthrough arrived not from interior design or agriculture, but from the dawn of the computing age. In late 1959, IBM was preparing to launch the 1401, one of the world's first mass-produced business computers. These were delicate, expensive behemoths, filled with fragile vacuum tubes and complex wiring. Shipping them was a logistical nightmare. The standard packing materials of the day were primitive, messy, and offered poor protection for heavy electronics. Before this plastic invention, if you mailed something fragile, you packed it in balled-up old newspapers, sawdust, or even horsehair. These materials were disastrous. They settled during transit, leaving items rattling around in empty space. Newspaper compressed under weight and never bounced back, meaning a heavy computer would eventually crush its own padding. The shipping industry was desperate for a cleaner, more resilient solution that wouldn't leave customers digging through piles of dust. Sealed Air saw an opening. They pitched their AirCap to IBM as the ultimate cushioning material. The demonstration was undeniable. Unlike newspaper, the sealed air pockets functioned as tiny, resilient springs. When compressed, the air pushed back, absorbing shock and vibration perfectly before returning to its original shape. IBM was impressed by the protection and the cleanliness. They became Sealed Air's first major customer. The failed wallpaper had finally found its true calling. The success with IBM revolutionized shipping. Unboxing a fragile item no longer meant cleaning up a mess of sawdust. The material was lightweight, which reduced freight costs, and transparent, allowing receivers to immediately identify the product inside. Suddenly, Everyone shipping anything fragile wanted the strange plastic with the air pockets. The brand name AirCap faded away, replaced by the generic global term we all use today, bubble wrap. But bubble wrap became more than just packaging. It evolved into a cultural phenomenon due to an unintended side effect, the pop. There is a genuine psychological basis for why we enjoy destroying this product. It offers instant auditory and tactile feedback. The resistance of the plastic followed by the sudden release mimics the evolutionary satisfaction of crushing a bug or cracking a nut. It provides a microdose of stress relief that the human brain finds strangely addictive. By the 1970s and 80s, bubble wrap was firmly embedded in pop culture. It appeared in movies as a gag, artists began using it as a medium for sculpture, and it became a symbol of obsessive safety. It even has its own holiday. The last Monday of January is officially recognized as Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day. Sealed Air Corporation, once a tiny startup with a useless machine, grew into a multi-billion-dollar packaging giant, all thanks to the product they initially thought belonged on living room walls. The technology did not stand still. Shipping pre-filled air is expensive because it takes up massive amounts of truck space. To solve this, Sealed Air developed inflate-on-demand systems. However, in 2015, they caused global panic by introducing iBubble Wrap. This version ships flat and is inflated by the customer, but the bubbles are connected in columns. When you press one, the air simply moves to the next bubble. It does not pop. The internet was outraged at this joyless innovation. The backlash against the unpoppable version proved just how emotionally attached we are to the original. While the silent version is efficient for high-volume warehouses, the classic popping version remains a bestseller for personal use. It seems we value the emotional release just as much as the protection it offers our valuables. The satisfying snap of a bursting bubble has become a unique part of the human experience, a small moment of destruction that brings a smile. From a hideous failed wallpaper experiment in a New Jersey garage to the protector of global commerce, Bubble Wrap's journey is a testament to the power of pivoting. Fielding and Chavannes did not invent what they intended, but they had the wisdom to recognize the utility in their mistake. They took a manufacturing error and turned it into an icon. It serves as a reminder that sometimes our biggest failures are simply successes waiting for the right problem to solve. The next time you find yourself absent-mindedly popping a sheet of packing material, remember you are destroying what was once the future of interior decor. We want to hear from you. What is an object in your house that you use constantly, that you suspect was originally invented for a totally different, perhaps ridiculous purpose? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and we might investigate your suggestion in our next documentary. Now that you know the real story, you'll never look at this the same way again. But there is always more to discover. Subscribe and ring the bell to keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.